puncture, infection control, patient care, and communication. By the end of the program, the students can earn industry-based certification as a phlebotomy technician, preparing them for future careers in healthcare. This evening, our students will lead us in an interactive demonstration, sharing the techniques and safety practices they've used in their practicum. Please join me in welcoming the Belton High School phlebotomy students and their teachers as they begin tonight's showcase.
Good evening. My name is Stephanie Yarian, and I am the phlebotomy and medical assisting teacher at Belton High School. And I love being able to see the kids get in the lab and learn some hands-on skills. And another blessing that is kind of a surprise is when I take them to the community partners and they go and work in Scott and White and other facilities. It's such a cool thing to see prior students and run into them in places and see my physician's assistants and nurses and respiratory therapists. So here are some future healthcare workers. We have Jillian Llanes and we have Sofia Olivero, and they're going to show you all of the things we do.
Hi everybody, I'm Sophia, and we're, as Ms. Ryan said, we're her phlebotomy students, and we go through the whole year learning all of our skills so we can go be in the medical field. Phlebotomy is just the art of taking somebody's blood, and 70% of the tests that doctors run is from the blood that we take. So if you needed any test done or any test was ordered, you're most likely going to see a phlebotomist for it. We do have a specific order of draw that we have to go through for the risk of carryover, which is just one additive taking from one tube to the next, and that can mess up our tests. And our order of draw is usually just going to be blood culture, then light blue, then red, gold, green, lavender, gray, and then royal blue and pink, and so on and so forth. And we have different colors to run different tests, and each color represents a different additive from that test. Like if you needed a glucose test, you'd usually see a green top, or if you needed CBC, you'd see light blue. We run these tests to make sure everything is healthy in your body and to make sure that everything is functioning the way it's supposed to be. And Jillian is going to show you how to do a venipuncture. Okay, so first she's going to get her gloves, and usually we'd identify the patient's name, but it is not a real human being. Next, she's going to take the tourniquet and tie it 3 to 4 inches above the site that we're going to stick to make sure that we have enough space to find the vein. And she's going to tie the tourniquet tight enough where 2 fingers can fit in it, but not tight enough where we're not loose enough where it's going to fall off. We tie the tourniquet to stop arterial blood because we only want venous blood. She's going to take her index finger and palpate, which is just her looking for the vein, over her site. When she finds the vein, she's going to untie the tourniquet because you can only have a tourniquet on for no longer than 1 minute. She's going to clean the site with an alcohol pad. Then, as it's drying, she's going to collect all of her materials, which today she's going to be using a butterfly needle with a tube holder. I forgot, sorry, y'all. She's going to retie the tourniquet once the site has dried, because if there's any alcohol and we were running a blood alcohol test, that could mess up the levels and that would mess up our results. She's going to take the tube holder and put it in her hand. She's going to take the cap off and inspect her needle. When she figures it out, she is going to pull back and anchor the vein, and then 3, 2, 1, stick. If you didn't see, there's a flash of blood that came through our butterfly tube, Now she's going to put the tube in the tube holder, and the blood is going to come out. She's going to untie the tourniquet because, like I said, it can no longer be on for longer than 1 minute. Once our tube fills, she's going to invert it to make sure the additive gets mixed with the blood and the test is run properly. After that, she's going to take gauze and remove her needle and ask the patient to apply pressure. And she's going to put the safety up so we don't have any accidental needle sticks. Put it in our sharps container, then she's going to check the patient. He's no longer bleeding, and then we'll wrap him up with Coband, which is usually our standard wrap. And then we'll send him on his way. Do y'all have any questions? Yes? We do take a test at the end of the year to get our certifications, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah. Well, I'm going to Texas Tech, and she's going to UT. So we would find clinics up there to make a little bit of money while we're still going to school. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, sir.
And they're already in the field, and then they're interacting with other professionals. And you see them a little bit more in the background instead of, not that Burger King.
Also, while we're still in school, if you're 18, you're eligible to go to clinicals like January through March, and that'll get you in a real hospital setting while taking other people's blood. Of course. Any other questions? No? Thank y'all so much for letting us be here.
Thanks so much to our phlebotomy students for that outstanding demonstration. So tonight's showcase is actually a twofer. So next we have our RN, which is Andrea Stonebrook here, and she's gone through the entire medical health pathway through Belton ISD, and she now serves as a school nurse at Burrell Elementary School. Andrea, thank you for being with us here tonight. Can you share what it feels like to be back in Belton ISD, this time as a nurse instead of a student?
Yes, thank you for having me. I feel it's such an honor to be here sitting in front of y'all. Bear with me, I don't do this often. I'm a one-person clinic and I stay in my little shell. But I will say it's just such a pleasure and an honor to be back here as a nurse. And you said it was as a nurse instead of a student, correct? Yes, I'm so sorry. Let me catch my train of thought for a moment. I will say that it is such a blessing to be able to serve now in the community that put so much into me so many years ago. I don't like to admit how many years ago. But I will say just one of the biggest things that kind of comes to mind when I was thinking about this question is just kind of the change in responsibility. You go from being the one as a student getting poured into to now having the honor and the opportunity to be that one that now pours out and pours into our students on a daily basis. I love getting to see them grow and learn and be excited on a day-to-day, year-to-year basis. And so just what an honor that is to be back at Belton.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
So when you think about your healthcare experience and everything that you've done in the district, what made you say that this is a profession for me?
It's kind of unique to be back here at Belton because truthfully, if it wasn't for Belton ISD, I would not be sitting here in front of you as a nurse. I actually was in my junior year of high school into the health shadowing career program. Prior to going into that program my junior year, I did know that I wanted to be in health services or health career. I just did not know what. I didn't have a true understanding of what healthcare had to offer. My mother was in occupational therapy. My grandmother was a nurse, so I kind of saw that, but I didn't really know the aspects. But through that health shadowing program, I got to follow different nursing careers, different specialties, and that really opened up my eyes to what nursing actually is and what a ministry it is. And so really, through Belton, I am now here today after my junior year. And I will say a quick shout out to Mrs. Templin as well, who was my instructor through that program. What an amazing lady and just such a wonderful lady. After my junior year, that led me to, I did actually apply to the phlebotomy program and the licensed vocational program, got into both, but then I ultimately decided to go the nursing route, completed the licensed vocational nursing program my senior year of high school, and that led me on the path where I am today. So thank you, Belton, and thank you, Health Services.
So to that note, why do you think it's important for the district to grow their own healthcare professionals?
I think it's very important to be a little bit homegrown. I think us, people such as myself, that had the opportunity to go to Belton and, be a student here at Belton, we kind of have a little bit more understanding of the culture, the values, the belief that Belton instills in those who, go to school here and those that serve here. Even I say the temperament of Belton, we kind of have that understanding. Belton is very much a family-oriented district. I myself have gotten to see that a little bit more personally than some through my father, Andy Foster, who's been here since 2006, so 20 years this school year. So just what a privilege it's been to see him be a leader in this district, and now that I get to kind of step up and also be an example and a leader through this school district.
So what advice do you have for these young students that are coming up through the same way that you did?
Yeah, that's a very loaded question. When we spoke the other day, I was a little tongue-tied because there's just so many thoughts that run through your head. I could pass the microphone to all these lovely ladies and gentlemen back there, and I guarantee you each one would have something different to say because there's just so much excitement you want to bring to our next generation, our next workforce, so much advice that you want to give. But in just kind of thinking about this and discussing with my husband, who's also a nurse, I kind of came to a threefold answer, kind of the highlights that I would give into the audience I have today. Firstly, I would say never stop growing, never stop learning, always be willing to have the mindset of I need to learn something else. Every day is a new day. You don't know everything, I promise you. It doesn't matter if you're the new grad starting or the 30-year veteran nurse, you are going to learn something different. And nursing is a forever changing profession. Secondly, I would say don't underestimate the power of a smile, a kind word, a kind gesture, a listening ear. We as nurses don't always provide care like you would see. Sometimes we're just there to be that listening ear and to, help them through certain situations. And lastly, most importantly, I would say is to not forget your why. We all go into this profession for a reason. It is a very hard profession. It is a very profession that takes a toll on you. So I would say in those moments of doubt and those moments that you're like, what the heck just happened? As you're walking to your car and you're trying to figure out life, those car rides home sometimes where you're not listening to music and you're just kind of staring in the abyss. I take those times to just remember why I chose this career, why I'm here, what my purpose is, what I want my purpose to be, and how I want to affect the lives of our kiddos. And if it comes down all the way to a Band-Aid, all the way up to a chronic care or whatever it may be for the day, I try to reflect and see how I helped somebody, how I was able to help a family, and just reflect on those moments. So I would say most importantly, never forget your why.
Well, thank you, Andrea. You are the journey of the graduate, and we appreciate you for being here. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Andrea Stonebrook.
Thank you so much.
So the Board of Trustees is going to make their way to the stage while we reset. Please give us one moment.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening and for your interest in Belton ISD. I hope you've enjoyed the demonstration by the Belton High School phlebotomy students. Let's give them a round of applause, if you will. The time is 6:27 p.m. and the Belton Independent School District Board of Trustees are now convened in a regular board meeting on Monday, November the 17th, 2025, at the Pittenger Fine Arts Center located at 400 North Wall Street in Belton, Texas. A quorum of board members is present. This meeting has been duly called. The notice of the meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code. I want to welcome the members of our audience and our live stream viewers to this meeting. As the Belton ISD Board of Trustees, we're here to set goals, listen to reports from the superintendent, approve budgets, contracts, personal appointments, and make policy for the district. This is a meeting of the Board of Trustees held in public, not a public meeting. Prior to this meeting, the board members received information related to items on tonight's agenda. Agenda items may not necessarily be handled in the order listed on the notice. This meeting is open to all who wish to attend and hear the matters discussed. These proceedings are being live streamed on the district YouTube channel and will be available for review in the days following tonight's meeting. For the video to adequately reflect the proceedings, I respectfully request that you please refrain from talking while others are speaking and that cell phones remain on the silent mode. Please rise for a moment of silent prayer or meditation. Please remain standing as our students from High Point Elementary lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance and honors to the Texas flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honored Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Please be seated. The first item on the agenda this evening is recognitions, and we'll turn it over at this time to our communications team to lead us in that regard.
Hang with me for just a second until the board gets down here. And y'all will go take a picture with them and I'll read some fun stuff about you, okay? Y'all ready? Okay. Y'all go on. Good evening. Our first recognition this evening is our pledge students. From High Point Elementary, we have Samuel Parker and Layla Picard. Samuel loves math and enjoys the challenge of solving problems. His friends describe him as funny, competitive, sporty, and intelligent. Layla is a fourth grader. Science is her favorite subject because she loves exploring how things work. Her friends describe her as caring, empathetic, and a wonderful friend to have. Well, we are so grateful to have you guys with us tonight. Thank you for starting our meeting off in an amazing way. And now we will recognize our students from our showcase this evening, as well as Andrea Stonebrook, who participated as our very own Journey of a Graduate nurse, health science student, who is now a nurse at Burrell. As you saw tonight, the health science pathway allows our students to gain both medical knowledge and hands-on experience through courses like Principles of Health Science, Medical Technology, and Anatomy and physiology and also sets a path forward for their futures. And we were so grateful that Andrea could join us tonight and show the complete cycle. And we're truly grateful for all of you for being here with us tonight. And next up, we will recognize our Special Olympics bowling team for their outstanding performance. We are recognizing these students for their outstanding performance at the Area 12 bowling competition back on October 24th at Fort Hood. This team brought home 5 first place awards, 4 second place, and 3 third place awards, and a ton of additional top finishes. We are so proud of them and to their coaches, grateful to their coaches, Lauren Marks and Misty Norwood, for their leadership and support. Congratulations to our bowling Special Olympics champions. And we want to also recognize this evening National Merit Commended Scholars from Lake Belton High School. These 2 seniors, Abram Gerardo and Taylor Rogers, have been named National Merit Commended Scholars for their exceptional academic promise, ranking among the top 50,000 students in the country. We are truly proud of your remarkable accomplishments. Truly a distinguished honor, and we're glad to recognize you. Thank you, guys. And our marching band state qualifiers from Lake Belton High School. Lake Belton High School Stampede Marching Band advanced to the UIL 5A State Marching Band Contest, continuing the remarkable tradition of excellence that they started when the school opened in 2020. We have our directors, Bobby Yerrigan, Craig George, Jacob Guerrero, Grant Shane, Jesse Arbelay, and student teacher and Belton High School alumnus, Jacob Masters. The Stampede represented Lake Belton High School and Belton ISD with excellence at the state contest last week in San Antonio. Congratulations to our students, directors, and families who continue to raise the standard for musical excellence in Belton ISD. Congratulations, Stampede. Awesome. Yeah, this way. Awesome. Congratulations. Congratulations. And as our students exit, we also now want to recognize our CTE program that has allowed us to become a district of distinction for CTE. We are proud to recognize Belton ISD's Career and Technical Education program for earning the CTE District of Distinction honor from the Career and Technology Association of Texas for the 2nd consecutive year. Belton offers over 25 programs of study, and in 24-25 school year, students earned over 1,100 industry certifications. Our program continues to demonstrate growth and excellence in connecting classroom learning to real-world opportunities, and CTE is led by Director of Pre-K-12 Career Readiness, Denise Ayers. Congratulations on making us a CTE District of Distinction. And next, we'd like our finance department to come forward. We are proud to recognize Belton ISD's finance department for earning a Superior Achievement A rating in the School Financial Integrity Rating System of Texas for the 14th consecutive year. For the last 6 years, the department has also gone above and beyond to apply to earn the ASBO accreditation and the GFOA accreditation for excellence in financial reporting, which they have earned for 6 consecutive years. And again, that is an additional extra layer that is not required, but this group puts forth the effort and the energy to make sure that we are operating at the highest with the highest financial transparency, and it's a lot of work to go through these additional layers and these additional audits, but it is a tremendous effort, and again, 6 years straight to earn both that national and international award. Congratulations. And Heath Condi, come on up from High Point. We are proud to recognize Heath as the Temple Rotary Club's Educator of the Month for October. He is in his 5th year in education, and he teaches 1st grade and is known for his leadership, positivity, and student-first mindset. His principal, Courtney Brewer, says that Mr. Condi plays a key role on our guiding coalition and consistently advocates for what's best for every student. We appreciate his positivity and adaptability, which inspires those around him. Congratulations, Mr. Condi. And next up tonight, our department showcase is our incredible health services team. Led by Mary Lisa Fanning, our department features 31 full-time nurses, including 21 registered nurses and 10 licensed vocational nurses. Everything from daily care to emergency response, these school nurses provide essential support across all campuses. And they truly exemplify compassion, professionalism, and dedication to student well-being across Belton ISD. Congratulations on being recognized this evening, Health Services Department. And one of our key partners with our health service department is our community partner, Baylor Scott and White Healthcare, who are making their way forward this evening. And we want to recognize them for all that they do as valued partners through programs like Dare to Dream, Healthcare Hero events, high school job shadowing, and mentorship. They explore real-world healthcare careers while building technical skills and leadership. And in addition, this evening, we're pleased to be able to announce a new partnership that was started this year with our Health Services Department and Baylor Scott and White Health called the Well Kids Pilot Program, which is a program that's at Hubbard Branch, providing medical care for students who are having difficulty accessing it through residents who are part of the program at McLean's Children's Medical Center. Those well child visits, our staff are able to help, nursing staff and physicians are able to provide families with medical care that's desperately needed and bridge the gap. So with that and for so many reasons, we are truly grateful. I do want to mention that you guys are debuting tonight a brand new award. Our Big Red Community Partner Award has been rebranded thanks to our students at Belton High School in the construction trades program, and we gave them very little direction or guidance, and we told them we just needed an award that we could present to community partners, and we wanted them to create it, and that is what they have created, and you are the inaugural group to receive that award, and we couldn't think of a better community partner to do that with. So thank you to Baylor Scott and White for all that you do. And we have one more final, very special award this evening. Lori Curry, would you please come forward? On Thursday, November 6th, it started out as just an ordinary day in the cafeteria during lunchtime at High Point Elementary. As paraprofessional, Lori Curry was monitoring and attending to the needs of students as they were eating their meals. She noticed that kindergarten student Adonis Hernandez was in distress. She quickly assessed the situation and realized that Adonis was choking and unable to breathe. She immediately began performing the Heimlich maneuver on him until the piece of food blocking his windpipe was dislodged and his breathing returned to normal. Adonis was evaluated by the school nurse, and aside from being a little shaken up, he was otherwise just fine. The nurse and the principal contacted Adonis's parents, who were overcome with gratitude and wanted to know how they could show their appreciation to Miss Curry. So, Lori, I don't know that we could ever adequately recognize or thank you for your actions in the cafeteria that day. What you did defies expectation and is nothing short of heroic. No one is more grateful to you than Adonis and his family, who are here tonight and would like to present something to you as a thank you to celebrate you. We are truly grateful beyond words. And please join us all in recognizing Lori Curry. And audience, if you will hang tight for just a minute while the board goes back to the dais, because they may have some words that they want to address. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank y'all for being here.
I've attended many board meetings in 36 years. I will tell you tonight makes me exceptionally proud. We have highlighted the incredible work of our student athletes who, y'all, they bring their own entourage. If you've never been to one of the Special Olympics events, you have to go and you have to see the community that comes out. To be able to recognize our incredible partners. I don't know if everybody knows this, but we have residents that actually go into Southwest Elementary School, do lessons with our students, all the way up to high school. Our students get to do practicums because of those amazing relationships. We have incredible students. I went to your state competition. I went to your area competition. They got it wrong. Y'all were number one in my book. I will tell you right now, you should be exceptionally proud of how well you did. We have incredible directors that are in the back that are just amazing, the countless hours, staff. I'm sitting here looking at an incredible healthcare team, some of which who have helped me when I had an off day. Thank you for taking my blood pressure. Not that this job would cause that. And to our incredible CTE staff. I hear we won a barbecue award over the weekend, but we'll let communications announce that one. And yeah, you're welcome. And oh my gosh, to get to see and hear from someone who went to school in Belton ISD, took advantage of the programs, our industry-based certifications, ultimately became a nurse and came back to serve in the community. I could not be more proud of this school district and our own hero for saving the life of one of our students. So thank y'all so much for being here tonight. And Manuel, I'll be quiet, I promise.
I could say ditto to all that. Well, when we start meetings off like this, it really makes you feel good. It makes you feel proud to be sitting up here to watch these things unfold, especially when you have a former student come in and tell us how she was impacted by the programs that we have here in this district. Public education is alive and well, folks. This is just a great display of that. Anyone else want to chime in on that? Chris, I know you've got some things to say.
What are you trying to say?
No,
Look,
well,
all I'm going to say is this is why we do what we do.
That's right.
Okay, this is a total 360, right, from
Yeah,
students to staff to community partners,
Yeah.
right? I mean, this is why we do what we do. Like, this is a tough job, but I couldn't do it with a better group of people, and I couldn't do it for a more deserving group of students and a more deserving group of faculty members and community members. I mean, this is it. And I got to end it with a go Stampede, let's go!
Anyone else? All right, guys, and we're about to start our meeting. You're certainly welcome to stay if you would like, or if you don't have time to stay, then you can certainly make a quick exit.
Somehow we're going to make that work, and this was just even better. You did great, and no, it was so awesome. Is that okay? Absolutely.
All right, we'll get started again. Next on the agenda are public comments, and I believe we have no public comments on agenda items, correct? We have one on non-agenda. All right, so we'll move forward. Moving on to action items. Item 4 in particular, public hearing regarding Southwest Elementary turnaround plan. Dr. Golan?
Yes, so our Assistant Superintendent for Teaching and Learning, Gabby Nino, is at the podium, and she is going to present information about a turnaround plan for Southwest Elementary School, and then we can open it up for comments.
Good evening. I want to start before getting to discussion about the actual plan for Southwest Elementary School by reconnecting to some accountability changes that we've had over the last few years that are directly connected to student performance as measured by the STAR assessment. What you see on your screen is just a timeline from 2019 to 2025 that illustrates the changes every year, either in the format of our state assessment, STAR, or the way accountability rules are applied to that assessment in the A through F system. Something that we haven't frequently talked about is a change in the 2021 school year as a result of Senate Bill 1365 that actually changed the way the A through F system is applied to schools to determine their ratings, including a shift to considering consecutive years of performance versus just the performance for that school year. And I want to show you just a quick visual to explain that shift. Prior to 2021, a campus might be identified in need of improvement based on that current year performance, meaning, for example, we just finished the 24-25, actually not just, we got ratings in the fall for the 24-25 school year, and if a campus had earned an F rating for that year, the school improvement activities would have been based just on that school year. Under the new application of rules, a school's engagement in school improvement activities is based on historical years, including D ratings for campuses. And so campuses earn what's called an unacceptable count, and we'll explore a little bit more of what that looks like. But with that change, it's important to keep in mind that with the rule change, there are 2 years in particular that we had 0 ratings because the rating system was withheld in litigation. And so we were making predictions on school performance while also planning for school improvement. We had really good predictions, but just want to make sure that there's an awareness that we are applying some activities based on changes during a time where we did not have accountability ratings released to us publicly. So let's talk in particular about Southwest Elementary School. In the 2022-23 school year, the campus did have a rating of an F with a score of a 59 overall score. In 23-24, they had a D. In the old system that I illustrated previously, that would have been considered a reset. We still would have had improvement activities, but it would have also counted, it would have reset their count in performance. And then in 24-25, the campus did earn a 59 overall rating, which is an F, which is resulting in our campus needing to write what's called a turnaround plan. And I want to talk to you a little bit more around what a turnaround plan is, and then get to very specifics about Southwest Elementary School. Across the state of Texas, if a campus or a district is writing improvement plans due to needed improvement as a result of STAR assessments, they must write plans in alignment with what's called the Effective Schools Framework. That framework outlines 5 different areas of focus that need to be in place and are considered highly important for effective schools. And those categories are in strong leadership and planning, in strategic staffing, in the school culture, positive school culture, and high quality instructional materials and assessment, and an effective instruction. Now, in order for a school to determine where their areas of focus are, they go through a pretty extensive process to write their turnaround plan. There are visuals just as cues up here that are visual images of the actual plan, but the campus initially goes through a needs assessment in each of those 5 categories. And in that needs assessment, they start with describing what their vision is for each of the categories, if it was fully actualized, and then they reflect on where they are right now as it relates to each one of those categories, and they determine then what is the difference between my vision and where we are right now in order to plan very targeted action steps that will be implemented to improve school performance. Once they've identified those areas, then they start thinking about the strategies that they will be using or the learning that is needed for the campus to take step forwards with those strategies and what will be the measures along the way to illustrate that they're progressing. Those include identifying the learning needed, how frequently they'll engage in learning, and again, what artifacts will illustrate progress for them. So for Southwest Elementary School, as the team, the campus leadership team and district leadership team engaged in this needs assessment process that involved teachers, that involved community, that involved the instructional leadership team, meaning Felicia, our principal, and her administrative team, as well as district supports, myself, Holly Moore, Denise Sharp, who supervises the campus, went through that needs assessment process. They identified first strong school leadership and planning. In this area, the team really reflected on, does our feedback that we're giving teachers align to the needs, and are we being very systematic in that? And so we've made an investment in professional learning. Our instructional leadership team has engaged in learning in what's called Get Better Faster. And it's a process that they use to observe and give teachers feedback in the classroom and what a support cycle looks like for that teacher. The learning and the action not only involves Ms. Gibson and her leadership team at the campus, but also Denise Sharp, our Executive Director of School Leadership, Holly Moore, who serves as our District Coordinator of School Improvement, and myself have all engaged in the learning. And that really like tangible activities that you'll see are an increase in the frequency that teachers are getting feedback and what the feedback cycles look like to sit down and say, teacher, here's what we observed, here are the strengths and the one small high leverage action you might take to improve instruction. So that's a big area of emphasis for the team at Southwest Elementary and for us in supporting the campus. The second area that they identified as needing an intense focus is in high quality instructional materials and assessment. In the needs assessment process, it was identified that there could be strengthening of fidelity of implementation of instruction. Was there rigor or the level of depth that instruction was happening at was an area that Ms. Gibson and team feels like we need to improve. And so there's a connection to that feedback, but there was also a need to strengthen the resources that were in place for teachers to use in the classroom. And so through a school improvement grant, we were awarded funds that has supported some external support and training to a very deep level with our instructional materials, including Bluebonnet Math and our Savvis English Language Arts instruction. And so the goal in this area is to really intensify the focus, ensuring that every student receives the highest quality instruction every day using those resources that are recognized as high quality instructional resources. And then the final focus area that they felt like really needed to be emphasized was in effective instruction. It may sound like that's what I've been talking about, but the effective instruction here is reflecting using data tools on how every student is doing in very quick cycles. So on assessments that are administered in the classroom, how did students do and how are you responding rapidly and flexibly to the student needs? So a couple of things that have happened that are shifts at Southwest Elementary is one, in their instructional planning process, they have built in days at the end of each unit of study that allow them to go back and reteach quickly. And so they've built more flexibility in their instructional timeline so that when they administer an assessment, they come together immediately and they plan how they're going to respond. So we gave that flexibility and timeline. That also means flexibility with each other and teachers. They have implemented what's called win time. And so not only is it just in their regular instructional time, But the Southwest Elementary team comes together and they look across classrooms and say, where were the strengths of Mr. Beck's classroom? What were the strengths of Mr. Preston's classroom? And how might we plan together to make sure that students are getting that strengths-based instruction together? So they flex their students and plan for responsive instruction during a 50-minute window of time daily with their students. And they come back together weekly to review students' progress and make any adjustments. So those are the areas: strong leadership and planning, high-quality instructional materials and assessment, as well as effective instruction, that have been emphasized at Southwest Elementary. I do want to share a couple of things that we are working on to ensure that they are supported in their efforts. This is not just the Southwest Elementary team, but this is our district that needs to support. In particular, in strategic staffing, we are working with a team to plan for how we can ensure that the highest quality teachers are in place and in place earlier on the Southwest Elementary campus, that allows them to put high quality learning in place and their systems in place with reduced variability. I also want to talk about, related to culture, some supports that we're putting in place. Culture of high achievement means that you're maximizing every single minute that you have available with students. And one of the things that Ms. Gibson would really like to do is to extend the school day at Southwest Elementary. And so Cassandra and I are working, Dr. Spearman and I are working right now with our transportation team to identify how we can remove transportation as a barrier and extend the school day for students who may need to stay longer at school, and we ensure that they have transportation after extended opportunities. In addition, Ms. Gibson is preparing a list of every single student on campus that needs a mentor and currently does not have a mentor in place, so that our team can ensure that those things are in place and that no child goes without that support through a mentorship on her campus. So in the plan that has quite a few, I'm going the wrong direction again, y'all, I'm sorry. Quite a few extensive details. I do want you to know that the highest leverage areas are in that leadership and planning, high quality instructional materials and assessment, and effective instruction. At this time, I want to answer any questions that you all have before we turn into a public hearing.
Trustees, anyone have any questions for Ms. Nino? Okay.
I have a couple of questions. I know we really talked in depth about this a couple of weeks ago, but just remind me, how soon are we able to begin implementing the plan? And then how are we going to know? Because I know other than STAR, we'll be able to see that progress, but how along the way are we going to see the fruits of the hard work that they're putting into this?
Absolutely. So the interesting thing about the turnaround plan is that it's intended for implementation next year. But there's just no way that we would identify a need in a process and not start working the work right now. And I will tell you that Felicia and team had already gone before the school year started through a very extensive process in writing a needs assessment and improvement plan, and started from day one on strategies. This process has just really helped us tighten up. One of the areas that you just asked about, how we will know, in this process, we identified an additional way that we can tighten up. And we developed, really, Holly, and with Felicia's help, she engaged in some learning with another campus and another community that's in one of her like schools, who had a really strong data profile that helped them really articulate clearly what are our targets in each of the domains of the state accountability system, and put a monitoring metric in place on a single page measurable tool. And so that's a way that we've improved and are implementing. After any data window that we have that's a district-wide data window for assessment, then a support team will go and meet with Ms. Gibson and her team and use that monitoring tool that we've developed to say, are we on track or are we not? So those will be done quarterly at a minimum. Now, with that said, she and her team are together every single Friday. I was with her team on Friday as they were reviewing their classroom assessments and making adjustments. And so we should be seeing progress weekly with teachers, but we'll do quarterly checks as well.
Anyone else? Chris?
I want to thank you for the work that's being done on the campus, right? So for the campus folks that are here, like, I know this is not the top thing that you want to be doing, right? Like, you know, you don't want to be having this conversation, but I want to thank you for the way that you've jumped in on this and, you know, taken ownership of it and really, like, doing the hard work that needs to get done, right? Because I certainly recognize that this is not easy. When we did get briefed on this, I don't know, a week or two ago, I guess, you know, a couple things kind of raised eyebrows that I feel like I have to explain maybe a little bit, right? So the first thing that raised my eyebrow was Lover 4, right? High quality instructional materials and assessments, right? And the first thing that came to my mind was, well, what do you mean we don't have high quality instructional materials, right? We just adopted a new curriculum. And so, you know, I think and what I understand from the conversation before is that, yes, we did just adopt a new curriculum. Those are high quality materials. And I think what's going on at Southwest is some early adoption, right, around those materials and really jumping in to get a head start really on the rest of the district on that. And so, you know, it's not that we don't have high quality instructional materials. We absolutely have that, and we're using that, and we're jumping in again with Southwest kind of getting in the front of that. So am I good on that?
You
Yeah?
are. I'd love
Okay.
to respond to it
Sure.
a bit and say that part of the needs assessment that really Felicia and her team implemented is that we did have concerns about the high quality instructional materials. So they did jumpstart, and their work really helped it helped us in understanding in the adoption process last year ways to improve as well. And they also have an intense support plan in place that's helping us strengthen our implementation for the rest of the district as well.
Yeah. I mean, I've read the plan and, you know, so impressed with the thoroughness of the plan. They tabs and tabs and tabs and tabs and tabs and tabs and more tabs and tabs and all the rows of those tabs, right? I mean, it's very clear, right, the amount of work that went into that. So, like, we've seen that. Thank you. I'm also super impressed kind of looking at Lever 5 around the data-driven sort of approach to this and the fact that, like, we can drive this down to the individual student in the individual classroom, right, and can see that, right? Like, we know where the spots are, right? We know, you know, where the biggest improvements need to be made, right? And we can see that down to the student, right? So there should be no doubt, you know, that we're using data to drive what's going on. And I was so impressed with that. You know, interested in figuring out ways that we can automate some of that data a little bit more to take some of the creation of that data and make it a little bit easier. That's probably a longer term challenge, unfortunately. But very impressed in that. And it made me feel, you know, I knew we were doing the work, right? But it really sort of helped cement it for me that, yes, we're doing the work, we have the measures, we're looking at this stuff, we're moving in the right direction. So I think the things that we are doing are the things that we need to be doing in order to, you know, get this on a better track. And again, thank you. It's about execution now, right? Execution and you know, measure it and tweak and continue to go. So thank you for doing the hard work.
Anyone else? Gabby, you mentioned about Felicia wanted to extend the school day. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Sure. So when we have a higher number of students who may be experiencing poverty, that's the first example that I would give. We know that every moment that a child has structured activity, structured experiences is incredibly important. I will talk about, and we're all talking with principals tomorrow about sticky learning. When you have unstructured around you, it's very hard for learning to stick in the brain. That is research proven. And so for many of our students, and it's not in any kind of criticism, when I leave school, I go home to unstructured activity. Gabby Nino's children do the same thing. And it is very, very hard for a child who lives in poverty to have learning stick when a large percentage of my day is unstructured. And so Felicia and I have visited about some ways to give more time in a structured environment that is academic in nature. And so our conversation Felicia said, I want more time for my kids to be on task. And so then our job is to help remove any barriers that are preventing that from happening. So our goal is that when we come back from break after holiday, that our students who are in need of the most support will have the opportunity to stay at school longer, to get some targeted support aligned to their needs, and that transportation will not be a barrier for that they can stay at school a bit longer and get targeted support for their needs.
And we've talked about that time needs to be very intentional and very strategic for the individual student needs during that time. And so it has to be engaging. So it has to be aligned to what that individual student needs. It has to be engaging. Not all students are going to jump for joy about staying after school. So it has to be incredibly engaging. We need to be able to provide snacks for students, and we need the support of families to support us in giving us that extended time with their students.
So the timeline would be January?
Yes.
Okay.
That's our goal, is to start in January when we return from break.
So what are we doing between now and in January in the interim to implement that?
Absolutely. So one, identifying any barriers that might exist, and one I just named for you all was transportation. Felicia and I had visited last week about the need for every family. We just had parent conferences, so I don't want to imply in any way that our parents didn't get conferences, but that every single child who is in need of additional intensive support would have a conversation with their teacher, supported by our campus leadership team, and communicating, we want to extend the learning time for your child. What barriers would prevent that from happening? And so Felicia and her team will work between now and break to make sure that we have contact with those families and ensure that they understand the importance and that we will be supporting them. In addition, some work between now and then is identifying who the staff will be that would support that time and what tools and resources they'll use for that time.
And then the other thing you mentioned was the mentor program. Can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, so when visiting with Felicia, she has mentors on campus. She has a group of students that still don't have a mentor secured with them. And so we just talked, and I said, you need to send the list out, because send me the list, send it to our team. There is no way we're going to let a child who needs a mentor not get a mentor. And so this is about ensuring that we as a district support team, when they've been working the work to find mentors and not, I don't want to say not finding success, but not securing someone yet, then we have a team here that can help with that. And so just ask that they share that so that we can get students connected to what they need. Now, Felicia, she has strong feelings about each student has somebody they need, and so she asked, can I articulate what the needs are for each student so we can work to find somebody that aligns to their needs? Absolutely. You tell us what we need to search for, and that's what we're going to find.
Okay. And I also, like Chris was saying, I want to thank you and your team. And I see our administrators here from our campuses around the district. Thank you guys for what you do. I know there's been a lot of time, toil, and effort associated with this, so really, really appreciate that. Okay. Anyone else?
What's been the response from the parents who have heard about this opportunity for the structured learning after hours, supports for snacks and transportation?
So right now, the team will be working from now until break to really work with each one of the families. So let me back up to response just to plan. Felicia's had several family events, one that we didn't have the turnout that we would want to, and so then she and her team rethought, what are we going to do? And so they had a student performance, and then they accompanied that performance with an information for families around their improvement efforts, and so they got a very large turnout then and got feedback from families on their improvement plans. The extension of the school day, that is a new conversation that we've started and are going to make happen with a launch day after January. And so we haven't, I can't say to you, this parent responded this way yet. I will tell you, in my past experiences, all I've experienced was a sense of gratitude from families that we communicated, we see there's a need, and we're going to remove barriers to get that support in place.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Chris.
Yeah, sorry, I'm going to come back at it. Some things triggered some things for me. Maybe as a follow-up, I don't know that we need to do that here, but I'm definitely interested in understanding more about the community engagement for the campus, right? So what does that engagement look like with the families and all that kind of stuff? is there anything more that you need from us for Southwest, right? Is there anything that we can do? And I'm gonna speak for myself. If there's something that I can do personally, okay, like if you want me to come, if we do end up with a, extend the school day and you want me to come and do math with kids, like you put me in, coach, okay? I'm down, put me in, coach. So like, is there anything that you need from us that you're not getting or that we're doing that's in the way? Let us know. You don't have to let us know on camera, right? You can let us know after the fact. But no, let us know.
Yeah. So I will respond on camera and just say we've always felt like there was champions from our school board in this work. I will ask that you continue keeping your eyes out for work that they're engaging in and events that Southwest Elementary is hosting, and be present and be visible. Phenomenal things are happening at Southwest Elementary, and I would proudly have my own children take part in school at Southwest Elementary. Absolutely, as we extend school day, would love for you to be there. I'll use the mentorship as an example. As we get that and we see their specific needs, there may be connections that you all have to groups in the community that would proudly serve and mentor, and so we'll share that with you all as well.
I'll just say, we went and did a site visit at Southwest, and so to answer Chris's question, Felicia at the end of that meeting actually invited us anytime that we wanted to come by, and I'm sure that extends to everyone on the board, so.
Okay. Thank you, Gabby. The time is now 7:19, and we'll now hold a public hearing regarding the Southwest Elementary Turnaround Plan. Do we have anyone signed up? All right. So the time is 7:19, and the public hearing is closed. Board, any follow-up questions for Ms. Nino before we go on to action items?
I don't have a follow-up question, but just a thank you. I want to reiterate that. I'm sitting here looking at the faces of individuals that are giving everything they've got to continuous improvement on their campuses, and I'm incredibly proud of them. And I just want to reiterate, when you're doing turnaround school work, when you're doing school improvement work, having done it as a principal, Gabby Nino's done it as a principal, it's easy for everyone to identify what are the challenges. These ladies know the challenges better than any of us can know the challenges. They're there every single day. They're seeing the celebrations and they're seeing the challenges. So I would just continue to reinforce, please support them, go to their events. I went to a storybook event that I'll tell you all about later in the superintendent's report. I mean, they and their staff, their teachers are working so hard. And so please, if you can get to some of those events, I know that they would appreciate it. And I certainly appreciate everything that y'all are doing.
I didn't see Felicia back there, so.
She's there.
Yeah, I saw you. Yeah, Gabby was standing there, so I didn't know. I saw the other minister, yeah. So you remember I came to your campus and we talked to the parents in Spanish. You remember that? So if I can ever do that again, please let me know. Okay? All right.
We also have an amazing faith-based leaders group that we work with, and our principals come together with them. We have somewhere around 30 from all of our local churches, nonprofits who come to the table and work with us. We have a process now for communicating our needs, so I think that's another place for identifying potential mentors. And so we're just looking for, every time we are gathering with community members, to look for mentors who are willing to spend some time, willing to read. We have Education Connection. Reading to our students matters, and so just a plug for our faith-based leaders and their support of our schools. They have also come to the table, and they're incredible partners with us.
We're behind you, girls, all the way. So got all the confidence in you guys and your administrative team and your teams that are working with you on your campuses. So we're behind you. Don't ever think that it's not that way, okay? All right. Move on to action items. Item 5, consider, discuss, and take appropriate action regarding school improvement plans, including the Southwest Elementary Turnaround Plan. Do we have a motion to approve the Southwest Elementary Turnaround Plan and the local improvement plans for Chisholm Trail Elementary, High Point Elementary, Hubbard Branch Elementary, and South Belton Middle School as presented? All right, Mr. Bozon, second. Mr. Beck. All those in favor, please raise your hand. That passes 7-0.
Hey, Manuel, just before we go on that subject, so I'll extend the same invitation to the other campuses, certainly. So if there's anything I can do for you all, please let me know.
Okay, that takes us to item 5B. Consider discussion, take appropriate action regarding the teacher incentive allotment spending plan. Dr. Golan?
Yes, so Board, as you know, we indicated to the Texas Education Agency last April that Belton ISD intended to explore and implement the teacher incentive allotment program. And so our team got to work with Gabby, Deanna Lovesmith, Melissa Lafferty, Todd. A lot of our teachers came together with us to really look at what could this look like for Belton ISD. Part of the process is you have to bring to the board and discuss the teacher incentive allotment spending plan. So Melissa's here and she's going to go through the requirements of that plan. Just as a reminder, we had a discussion item in the last board meeting where we discussed this, and tonight she's going to give you some highlights and we're going to be asking for your consideration.
All right, good evening. Like Melinda said, we're here to discuss and seek your approval of the Belton ISD Teacher Incentive Allotment Spending Plan. There are a multitude of different spending plan models that can take different shapes, different forms, but tonight for your approval, we are recommending a 90%, 10% model plan. And in this model, basically 90% of the earned teacher allotment, 90% of that would go to the teacher that earned the funding, would go to their compensation, and then the district would then reserve 10% for the cost it takes to run the plan. The 90% model is one of the most common plans. A lot of the districts surrounding us are using this same model. And this model probably best maximizes the amount of dollars that can go to a teacher that earned that funding, as well as balancing the costs that it takes for the district to run that plan as well. We're also hoping that by doing this, it will incentivize other teachers to start working and participate in that plan as well. You can make it as complicated as you want. For instance, you could do a 45% to that teacher's compensation and another 45% to the grade level team. Depending on each district's, needs or their plans, you could make this as complicated or as simple as you wanted to make that happen. Any other comments, Deanna? All right, so just to kind of run you through what that 90% teacher compensation would look like. For example, a teacher that would, for example number one, if a teacher earns $3,000 in an allotment, the district would take 10% to help cover the cost that it takes to run that plan. And then you would back out, that is included in compensation, are the benefits that are paid by the district on that teacher's behalf. And so by including those benefits that the district pays, that then reduces the amount of the allotment that the teacher would receive in gross pay. So for instance, in example one, rather than $2,700 in gross pay, that teacher would have a gross pay of $2,398. And I believe that's 62 cents. Then you would back out that teacher's deductions, their withholding, just like payroll, so their take home would be $1,678. Now, if you're wondering about why are those benefits included, as this program gets larger, that cost to the district increases. There's no additional funding that helps supports that increased cost to the district for those benefits. And so TEA has allowed for those benefits to be in that calculation as well. So then in the district's 10% reserve,
Here you can see that if there was about 1,134,000 that were allotment that was generated by teachers, if the district reserved that $113,400 for their cost, most of that cost is the Star Renaissance to help pay that cost where those assessments are housed and assessed. Also, there would be, consultants and additional staffing costs that are going to be experienced by the district to run and manage all of those allotments and getting those through the payroll system, and to help pay for that professional learning to help other teachers participate and become eligible for a teacher incentive allotment. So you can see that 10% is easily consumed by those additional costs. Now, one thing to remember, for a teacher to be eligible, they must be reported in a designated teaching role that is within our teacher incentive allotment plan in the fall snapshot submission, and then be in the classroom through the winter PEIM submission that goes to TEA, and then remain in the classroom throughout the end of the school year to be eligible for a TIA allotment payment. This slide right here kind of goes through a couple of scenarios that are addressed within our plan for payment eligibility for those teachers. So, for instance, teachers that are here in the winter submission who do not complete the school year because they have a mandatory military reassignment, we will go ahead and let them receive their compensation. Teachers and this will probably more than likely happen, teachers that move from one campus to another will also still receive their compensation, and that compensation will be based on that funding that at the campus where they were at the winter submission that generated that funding. Okay, so they would be paid from those funds. Teachers leaving that are here they have to be here through that winter submission to capture that data that goes to TEA to calculate those allotments. So those teachers in that winter submission, and then if they leave before the end of the school year for reasons other than that mandatory military leave, will not receive compensation. The remaining funds that may get left on the table will then be distributed to those designated teachers at the campuses where the funds were generated. And the amount that each teacher would receive cannot exceed $5,000, and if there's any remaining funds after that, then those would be used for hiring stipends. And then for those teachers coming into the district with a designation, will be paid the same as our existing teachers here in the system. So the teacher payouts will happen as follows. After that winter submission, that information is submitted to TEA, who then calculates each of the allotments for the teachers. The district does not do any of those calculations. Then they will send those allotments and will notify us of those in April of 2027, which will be the first payout year. One thing to note, those allotment amounts can change from year to year, which is due to the demographic changes that can happen at the campuses. So those allotments will not be the same from year to year. So if you earned $3,000 last year, you may not necessarily have the same dollar amount going into the following year. Retiring designated teachers that earn a designation, they will receive their compensation earlier than the others in May of 2027. And that will give us time to process them through payroll, submit their information to TRS so that they can get processed and start receiving their annuity payments in a timely manner. And finally, all other designated teachers will receive their compensation in June of 2027. All right, and we're open to questions or discussions.
Any questions for Ms. Lafferty? Oh, yeah.
Thank you for this. I feel like we've been talking about this for a long time, so it's exciting to just see this really start to come to fruition. I guess the question that I have is once we decide, are we locked into, say, if we do the 90-10, are we locked into that? Or if we see at some point that maybe we could go up to a 93, I know you said we could get as complicated as we want. Once we decide, are we locked in?
No, you're not. You can change, and I'm not sure of the timing of that change, but you can change your plans. And a lot of districts went out and made them either complicated or did not reserve 10% for the district. And what they were finding, they were backtracking and had to go back to saying, hey, we need to go back to a 90-10 to help cover those increased costs to the district.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, can I say something yeah,
Sure.
I mean, we're not officially locked in, right? But if right now the 10% is the maximum that the district could reserve to cover expenses, right? And so the 90%, right, in our scenario, the 90% would be, you know, what you give the teacher. But if we were to implement the 90% and then try to change that, especially to lower that, you're not technically locked in, but there's definitely a morale issue there, right? That you've got to figure out if all of a sudden it goes from 90% to 80% or 75%, right? So you're not officially locked in, but I mean, I think it's going to be really difficult to make changes and set the expectations properly if we do start to make changes.
It couldn't go below 90%, so we will be locked in at least 90% by the state. We could change it to 95%, but we cannot go, the state won't allow us to go below 90. I want to make sure.
Mm-hmm.
Would that be an annual decision?
We would only recommend changing it if there's a review and we find a need to. Otherwise, once it's approved by the board, it stays. And talking with other districts, folks that are changing started out at a higher percentage than 90 and are finding the program is costly. As you add on additional teachers, you'll be looking for new assessments, new ways to assess. There'll be professional development costs, and they are finding they have to go back to a 90-10. You're correct. That does cause a morale problem if you start high and then you take away. There are districts facing that right now.
So if a teacher is a 90-10 and then it changes to 45, whatever, then that teacher has to go with the lower, doesn't stay at the 90, right?
We wouldn't change that model. I mean, we wouldn't recommend it. We're recommending a 90-10. The model that's out there that was the 45-45 is there are districts who decided what they, it's a struggle, right? Because when you have kids that are performing academically with a teacher, we all know there are other players involved. We know there's paraprofessionals, there's instructional coaches and interventionists. We know there's a team effort. And so in an effort to honor that, there are districts who chose these plans at like 45% goes to a designated teacher, 45% goes to the team. That being said, you can see when you take those amounts and take all the benefits out, how much it really does impact it. And so those are just a few examples out there to show you there is flexibility, but by far the majority of districts, including those in our area, are at a 90-10.
That was my next question. So centrally, it's a 90-10?
It's a 90-10.
Okay. Chris?
Hey, would you mind going back 4 slides? It's the example of gross pay and net pay and uh-oh. Yeah, definitely not there. Yeah. This is a really important view, right? And we talked a little bit about like making sure that this view is very transparent and communicated to everybody right off the bat, right? We had some challenges, I think, with the HB2 increases, right? And I think this view of it is a great reaction to that, right? I mean, I think it's very transparent as to what's happening and sort of generally guiding what the expectations are. So awesome view here, right? And to illustrate Dr. Lovesmith's point, right? I mean, if you just look at column number 1, right? And you see that in this 90-10 model, it's 1678 and change, right? The purpose of the allotment is to make a meaningful difference, right? And so if we cut that in half, right? Like, is that now a meaningful difference, right? I don't know. right? And so if you go back down one slide, or advance one more. Is this the cost? Yeah. And so we talked a lot about this in the budget committee, right? Like, do we reserve the full 10 that we're allowed to reserve, right? And I think we landed on, yes, we should reserve the full 10, because if you notice here, actually the full 10 doesn't actually cover all of the costs that we anticipate, right? So there's still going to be a gap that we're going to have to meet above that 10%. And so that's why we had some discussion on whether we should land there or not. So that's how we got there. Can you go one more, advance one more, please? The fourth bullet, so the remaining funds will be distributed to the designated teachers at the campus that generated the funds. So is this in a case that we had a teacher who was going to earn it leave, and so that's where those extra funds are coming from?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
And that is a very, very rare situation.
Yeah, I would think that would be rare.
Teachers are aware in April of the amount they're going to receive, and so it would be from between April and the end of the school year that they were choosing to come back. And we are required to have a plan for how we'll spend that money.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, that's it. Thank you.
Riley?
Yeah, I was just going to echo what Chris just said about the expectations. Yeah, hopefully when they're getting those the week before, that goes out and they're reminded of that slide.
I would even say not even the week before, like when we're talking about it now.
Well,
like we've got
yeah,
to be communicating and setting that expectation now a year in advance.
Because,
right?
yeah, and they all go down about half. And the other thing regarding the expectations, I think we need to remember these are still assumptions because we're still going through an accreditation process, right? So we don't know until the end of this school year. Well, no, not even then. Maybe if you could clarify on that, of when we'll know for sure if we are accredited.
So the data will be submitted to Texas Tech University in October of 2026. So we'll finish out this school year collecting the data. We'll submit that data in October, and then we should be receiving back, I think it was by January, from Texas Tech if our data was in fact validated.
And
I
I think-
also just want to comment that just so you, in regard to the communication, upon a final approval of our spending plan, we do plan to provide every single teacher that's in the eligible pool with just a clarification for them personally that they are in this designation. They should be know by now. I feel confident they do, but just double checking and how their data what their data is in fact based on. In addition, we have an in-depth guidebook that will be published on the website that covers all of the details of our plan. Will include all of these things, how things are calculated. There'll be examples of the payout. So that will be on the website, hopefully by the first of this year.
I just wanted to reiterate, yes, there is a possibility a district would not get their data validated. I know Deanna doesn't want to think about that. Everybody is working really hard, but I also know that reality has happened across our state. And if there is a disconnect between T-test performance and student growth, then there is a chance you could not get validated. You get feedback, you learn, you go back out, and that has been a reality for school districts. And so I appreciate you bringing that up because it is a long runway for TIA to actually be implemented. And so ideally, I know the team would have loved to have, hey, let's work on calibration for a year or two before we start. Well, if you do that, you calibrate for 2 years, then you tell, we think we're ready, we tell TEA, it's another 2 years before a first payment. So we jumped out prior to that, and so that is a risk, and I think it's important that we say that. And I also think it's important, I received a comment in a listening session recently, and I think there's confusion around who gets to set the dollar amount. I think the comment was around, I've seen different amounts. Belton ISD does not set the amount of these awards. So I think that's super important. The Texas Education Agency will set those dollar amounts, and those dollar amounts will not necessarily be the same every single year. So I think to the communication point, we're going to have to over-communicate that and over-communicate that. We do not set that, the state sets it, and it's very likely those dollar amounts could change. So we'll just keep communicating that so that everyone understands that.
You are correct. I will add, it makes me extremely nervous that there are districts where their programs were not validated. I will say that we applied and were accepted to a TIA data support for this year, and so I'll be working with them directly to look at our files, preview our files, double check our file. So yes, it is always a possibility, but I will assure you that we're doing everything we can to make sure this is successful. No pressure.
Okay. No further questions, no discussion? All right, we'll move on to a vote here. Thank you, ladies. All right, this is 5B. Do we have a motion to approve the proposed teacher incentive allotment spending plan model allocating 90% to teacher compensation and 10% to the district to cover administrative costs to support the program as presented? Have a motion. Chris, 1. Ms. Bass, 2. All those in favor, please raise your hand. That passes 7-0. Well, that concludes our action items this evening. Next on the agenda is reports. Dr. Golden?
Yes, so Christine Parks is going to come to the podium. Tonight, we are doing a report on our work around Goal 1. Just as a reminder, Goal 1 is around strengthening partnerships. It is very much anchored in one of the beliefs that the board has adopted, and that is community engagement enhances the educational experiences of our students. And so Christine has been shepherding the work, and she's going to give you a quick update.
Yes, thank you for allowing me to spend some time and update you on our progress with KPM 1. Our Goal 1 is again to strengthen the support and engagement of all stakeholders in the pursuit of the Belton ISD vision. And really, we know that having a strong school system is an essential component to having a thriving community. And we also know, as seen demonstrated tonight and at board meetings and other places, that we have an incredible community who is behind our schools and wants to be supportive and wants to be involved in those processes. And because of that overwhelming engagement of this community, that's really what led us to develop this key progress measure for this year, really designed around this concept of strategic partnerships. And yes, we've had a long-standing partnerships with multiple community entities and agencies that have been flooded with interest in supporting our schools over the years. However, if you were to ask various campuses and or departments what was strategic about their partnership, or how they were measuring success in their partnership, or what their intended outcomes of that partnership were, you may get various answers depending on who you were talking about based on the partnership. So that's where we started moving into this year, where we were using common language and expectations district-wide around developing these partnerships, so that we really had a collective understanding of the elements that go into a strategic partnership. And the first one is really about defining the purpose and the outcome. And we worked with campuses and departments over the summer and at the start of the school year, really looking at their data, looking at their campus plans, at their needs assessments, and then identifying where in those needs could we potentially use the help of a community partner. And so really starting with that data, identifying the need, and then really thinking strategically about who do we have in this community that can help us bridge that gap and meet that need. So really identifying then partners that where they really had a shared vision and that both the partner and the campus were equally committed to that outcome. And again, those outcomes being measurable and achievable outcomes. For example, increasing student participation in after-school programs, or increasing parent engagement, or you'll see in a minute one of the examples, increasing student attendance, and what that might be. So really being intentional about each campus and or department identifying their need based off of their individual needs assessments. And so then the second part or element of the strategic partnership is really defining what that partnership looks like, so the scope of the collaboration, and really naming those specific activities and programs that were going to be done mutually to benefit our students and our overall success. So examples of that we gave campuses to really think about were joint workshops or events, or mentorship programs, or internship or volunteer opportunities, enhancing curriculum activities, or shared use of facility or resources, or community service projects. Those were some of the kinds of things that we were asking campuses and departments to generate thoughts around, and then being able to really clearly define the roles and the responsibilities of both the campus and the partner, clearly identifying the resources that would be needed in order for those partnerships to be effective. So what could the school district really provide to help that partner have what they needed when they came in order to be successful and set up everything from accessing materials to communication channels, what that would look like, and then what clearly could the partner communicate? Because sometimes we have these ideas about what a partner could communicate, but it may not be what they could contribute, but it may not really be what they could contribute. So really being clear about what the campus was able to offer and provide, and what the partner was able to offer and provide, aligned to that shared vision and partnership. And then really thinking through those operational procedures in terms of how often were the two groups going to meet. So how often was the campus and the community partner going to meet to talk, to strategize, to plan? Because these things don't just happen after one conversation, right? It takes a lot of time. And in order for a partnership to truly develop, that's an ongoing relationship. So what is that going to look like? Are we going to meet monthly? Are we going to meet quarterly? Are we going to meet in person, phone calls, whatever that may be? If there is a need for any kind of data sharing or privacy issues for either entity, making sure that we've really been thoughtful about those things and that we've removed any and all barriers from those things. And of course, anytime we have community partners that are coming in and working with our students, making sure the background checks and things like that are in place so that all of those pieces don't hinder us from moving forward. And then probably not maybe the most important piece, but maybe the most difficult piece in the process is really thinking through that final element, that evaluation and assessment. So how are we really going to be able to tell if this partnership that we've entered has been effective? So what are those metrics for success? What evaluation methods are we going to use? I'll give you a couple of examples. Burrell is teaming with the Texas Farm Bureau to build a hydroponic, I had to write it down phonetically, a hydroponic grow tower in their school. And Farm Bureau is going to come in and they're going to talk with the kids about how they need to care for it and what they need to do. So the measures of success for that program that Burrell has identified is, are they able to successfully grow fruit, grow the food, grow the fruit, grow the vegetables are they able to produce food and grow their own at the end of this? And even a more specific measurable outcome that they are looking to do is to keep the water in the happy zone, which is optimal pH of about whatever that is, for 55 of 61 days. So those are the kinds of measurable pieces that the campuses are really working to say, okay, yes, we think this is great. Yes, build us a hydroponic garden and we're gonna, work it. But how are we gonna know if it's being successful? So really thinking through those processes. Tarver is another campus that is partnering with the Jumping Company. Tarver identified attendance and an increase in attendance as one of their goals and one of their needs. And so the Jumping Company is able to offer and will bounce house once a month. They are setting goals for students for attendance, and students that meet those goals are going to have the opportunity to participate in the jump house. But how are we going to track that progress? Tarver is going to be tracking those individual students and their project and their attendance progress as it goes to make sure that it is beneficial at the end and that it is truly tied to what their initial goal was. So those are just a couple of examples. We have the implementation timeline that you can see up here. We are still kind of mid and early in the phase, but in August, the goal was really for us to be looking at and brainstorming what the needs are and brainstorming potential partners. September was really about campuses and departments making contact with initial partners to see what the feasibility of developing a strategic partnership would be. October and really now has really been all about drafting those partnership agreements. And we were able to give campuses and departments an outline that went through the strategic steps that we just talked about so that they could use that template to really guide some questions as they were meeting with their partners and developing those timelines and those structured partnerships. They are in the process of sending those to my office right now. And so I'm looking at them and giving them some feedback about some different things, or they're calling and saying, how can we measure this? What are other places doing? Because this is what we want to do, but where's a good starting point for us to really think about measuring this? So they're generating a lot of conversation as that is happening. The final plans are not due until mid-February, till mid-January. So they're still, all of our campuses and departments are in different phases with that. And then once those plans are submitted, all of the partnerships should be in full swing no later than February through May. And during February through May, we've given them 2 windows to provide us some tangible feedback about how those partnerships are progressing. We've got 2 dates, March 1st and May 1st. Campuses and departments will submit their evidence of those partnerships in place, and then they're evaluating their effectiveness. Again, we're early in the process. Partnerships aren't supposed to be finalized and in place until mid-January, but as you can see, we already have several that have been turned in or have already started, or those agreements have been finalized, and here are just a few examples up here. Leon Heights, Belton Church of Christ has been an incredible partner with them and really reached out, all with the goal of increasing parent engagement through ongoing support activities throughout the year. Burrell, we talked about their partnership with the Farm Bureau on their hydroponic grow tower. Hubbard Branch as a partnership with Temple College that's also focused on increasing student engagement. Temple College is going to be partnering with them to host a math star family nights, literacy nights, science and STEM night, and even partnered on their Veterans Day program. Belton Middle School and UMHB are collaboratively designing experiences to promote physical and mental wellness for middle schoolers. They're going to work to develop a 2-week wellness unit that UMHB is going to help come in and lead some of those lessons, as well as they will host a wellness open house for families. And again, that goal for that campus was to strengthen the community engagement and really collaboration for future projects and internships as well. This, of course, is all just diving off point that we hope as these partnerships are getting up and going, that it does encourage future collaborations and for those partnerships to grow. We talked about Tarver and their partnership with the jumping company aligned to increasing increasing student attendance. Our transportation department is partnering with the Belton Chamber of Commerce, partnering specifically to assist with some 4th of July parade logistics that they're working through. Lake Belton Middle School is looking to implement the Watchdog programs to increase parent participation, especially with our dads across that campus. And then one of the partnerships that we recognized tonight was our health services department and their partnership with Baylor Scott and White, and particularly with the residency program at McLean's Children, that they are hosting that Well Kids pilot program at Hubbard Branch, where those pediatric residents are coming to the campus, and the school nurses are working with those residents and with the families to bridge that gap between health care for our students that are maybe having difficulty accessing those things. I'm trying to see if I missed anybody up there. And then our Education Connection is up there. We've had Education Connection in the district for quite some time, but we had 1 or 2 of our campuses that said, we've been doing this, but we really haven't been very strategic about it. So we feel like we can take this opportunity this year to really revisit how we're implementing that program and working with those partners, and really make it more impactful for our students and hopefully for the volunteers as well. So those are just a few, and again, hopefully we'll have 4 or 5 slides filled after January with all the partnerships that are up there, but these are just some of the ones that have been formalized, and honestly, I think I've gotten 3 more since I made this slide last week. So I know there's one with Temple College and another one, 2 with Temple College, and another one that's in the works. So very excited, very proud of our campuses and departments for really being thoughtful about how we engage with our community. Again, we're so blessed to have an incredible community that's invested in our schools, but how can we do it in a way that's very strategic and really meeting the needs of our students and our families? So with that, I'll be glad to take any questions.
Any questions for Christine? Director?
I just really, really love this. First of all, thank you for all the hard work that you're putting in to make sure we have this on every single campus across the district. Dr. Golden, you've mentioned a few times that you've been in several districts, but this was the first district, I believe you said this a few times, where the word community is embedded in our value statements. And you obviously hear that tonight, but not just the word that's written on a wall, but you can definitely feel it in this work and in this community. Our community really does value and esteem our district and what Belton ISD does for our children. I've seen it firsthand. I got to volunteer with Watchdogs years ago with my kids who were in elementary school. I don't do that when they're in high school anymore. They don't think it's nearly as cool anymore. But just touching on what you mentioned with Belton Church of Christ in Land Heights, I mean, that is such a phenomenal relationship that's been in place. What that church has done there on that campus for probably 5-6 years now, I think that's one of the hallmark connections that we have for our campuses. I'd love to have more churches involved all across our district, and just thank you for all your hard work and making sure that we have that at every single campus.
Anyone else? Chris?
Christine, if there's a business or entity that's interested, did they reach out to you?
They can absolutely reach out to me, yes.
Okay.
Absolutely reach out.
And how are we doing the matching, right? How are we making sure that like any one entity isn't just getting overwhelmed with like all the campuses reaching out to them? How does that work?
So great question, and that's part of why we ask campuses to kind of flip the script this year and think in terms of their needs assessments and what their needs are, and then think about different entities across our community that could maybe fill that need. So some have reached out and say, hey, I've got a need for this. Do you know anybody? And so I've been able to say, actually, as a matter of fact, we do. We had a group that just reached out to us. Let me put you all in contact. So anybody that is willing to participate and would love to partner, please reach out to me, and then we will help facilitate facilitate that need. Again, this being the first year of really defining what the strategic partnership looks like and having that evidence-based data to support how that partnership is evolving is been a little bit new and a little bit different. But the goal is, like we talked about earlier, that this is just the tip of the iceberg, that this will continue to grow as we see, oh wow, by really being aligned on our goals and objectives of these partnerships and what we want to achieve, we can achieve so much more than we initially thought. So even if it's not part, if someone's interested and it's not part of this first phase of partnership, we will keep them on a list and we will continue to develop those partnerships with anybody that wants to. So absolutely, yes, reach out to communications.
So just as a follow-up item, I mean, I would be interested to understand like what the different campuses defined as their needs.
Sure.
Because I think this is after the campus improvement plans, right? So the detail's not in there. But I would be interested in understanding that.
It could be. It may have been something that they identified in their improvement plan, and then they were just but how, maybe they had thought more locally about how they were going to meet that need on their campus, and now we asked them, kind of think bigger. Think about this community that supports you. How can maybe somebody in this community, a group or a business in this community support you in that? So,
and let me clarify, I don't want to create more work, right?
No.
So if the list exists.
Right, and in follow-up conversations on goal progress, we can include some of that information of the needs that have surfaced, for sure.
for example, Tarver and attendance being their primary objective. When all of these are turned in, we will have a list. We're developing right now of what everybody's targeted area was, and then of course who they're partnered with. So yes, 100%, we will have that at the very end.
I have a question of how does this goal move forward in the future? Is this kind of an aggregation of marginal gains, like we hope to do this every year, or once they get the one, they keep one, or do we hope when they have this strategic partnership, they keep that and then add one the next year? Like what?
Sure. So I think the answer is yes and yes. So potentially, with a partnership that's just growing or starting this year, as they go through this year, they may decide, oh my gosh, guess what? We could grow this partnership and add 2 or 3 other components with this one partner, right? Or we could say, now we've really looked at our needs assessment and we've realized we have another need, so maybe we need to explore adding another partner or partnership that can help with that need while we still continue this other, because the need didn't go away after a year typically. That's not what happens. And so yes, potentially again, just the jumping off point and being able to grow partnerships both within and with the current partner, but also expanding to additional partners to meet the needs.
Okay, I think that's it. Thank you, Christine. That brings us to board committee reports. As I understand, there was no policy committee meeting this go around. Is that right? Okay, all right.
We just focused on the taps, tips, and lips. Did I get it right?
Oh, very good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The map for the tap.
I told Gabby she didn't say that in the meeting, but you get to.
Okay, budget. Brandon, Chris?
All right, I did my best to connect to the meeting from San Antonio
during
the state marching contest, so Brandon's probably going to keep me honest here. The first item we talked about was the 26-27 budget planning. If you went to the workshop, which everybody did, you're well-versed in what we talked about from that perspective. Second item was the TIA spending plan. Again, you're now well-versed in the TIA spending plan. We talked about an item that falls under the closed session guidelines, and so we're going to be talking about that tonight, so I'm not going to get into that one. I think we did a brief update on the demographic report, and then also talked a little bit about bus sales and what do we do from remaining bond funds from the prior bond. So those are the highlights. Was there anything else you want to? Okay.
A lot of fun stuff.
Oh, yeah, this is great stuff. Yeah.
Okay, facilities. Thank you, Chris. Brandon, facilities, Rucker and Jeff?
Not a whole lot. We went back over the 22 bond update. Looks like we'll be closing most of that out shortly. talked a little bit about the bond election in 25, kind of looked at the numbers, where things were voted on, against, things like that, had a good discussion about that. Talked about replacement of AC units. We've got several of them going on right now throughout the campuses. They'll be doing a lot of work over the holidays, getting them in when the students aren't there. A little bit of real estate discussion. We actually went in the demographer's report, so we didn't have to sit through a 45-minute presentation on that tonight. You're all welcome. I didn't actually have anything to do with that, but I'm just glad we didn't have to sit through that. And actually, that was one quick thing on that one. You all have got a copy of it, and you can look at it, and it shows what we know. The area is not growing as fast. It's not Belton ISD. The area is not growing as fast right now. New home sales are down across the board. There's not as much inventory out there right now. You know, for the first time in many, many, many years, the average price of a used home is now gone above the average price of a new home. So that shows a shift that's, you know, taking place. And beyond that, that was it, unless I messed up the record. Nope. All right, good.
Thank you, gentlemen. Okay, that takes us to Dr. Golden, Superintendent's report.
All right, Board. Since we met last, I have a couple of things to highlight. One, we were incredibly fortunate to provide a fall dinner for our new to profession staff members in Belton ISD. So this is just a picture of all of us together. I couldn't show you the one where we all actually ran towards the camera. It was a great action video, but just the energy with this group of professionals. We had, I think it was the Lake Belton High School strings performed. We had our culinary students make a delicious, amazing meal. It was incredible to just celebrate our first year teachers, and some of their mentors were in the audience for this. And so we held it in the fall, and we held it at a time where there's something unique that happens somewhere in October and November in teaching. It just feels like you hit a wall. Some people talk about a fall wall. It gets really hard, and these individuals are doing such a good job, and so we just wanted to take a moment to encourage them. We want to keep teachers. We know that year 1 to 5, it's difficult to keep teachers, and so this is just one of our strategies to make sure that they feel known, they feel seen, and they feel appreciated, because we are incredibly proud of them. And so, again, more pictures of that event are on your right, and the campuses also had posters that they created, cards that they wrote their new teachers, just encouraging them in what is an incredibly worthy profession, but a very hard profession. Also, a lot of community engagement opportunities. One, want to share the picture on the right. I know it kind of looks like a board meeting, doesn't it? Leadership Belton came to visit. They had an education day. So they came and talked about a little bit of state of the district and shared some things that are going on in Belton ISD. They gave me some great insight and feedback. They're an incredible group of professionals from across our community that just want to know how they can plug in and how they can support Belton. So that was incredible. Also, the image on your left side, that is from our faith-based leaders group. So we have a really engaged group of community members that are coming together. It's faith-based leaders as well as leaders from our nonprofits coming together to do the very thing and to collaborate on the things that Christine was just talking about in the presentation for Goal 1. Also been in lots of classrooms, and I will tell you, seeing lots of events and experiences, everything from I forgot how fun it is to read to kindergartners. I had that great experience when my son hit kindergarten for the first time. I was a campus principal at the time, and I looked at the kindergarten teacher on my way out the door and went, wow. Wow, your job is hard. The book was not about cats or dogs or what they did over the weekend, but I got lots of comments and questions. They are very curious, and I just loved that. Also in the middle, top picture, I thank you, Chris, for being there. So when we talk about the importance of community engagement, both that center picture and the one on the right, I want to highlight. There are a lot of things people can do in their retirement and can do with their spare time. But we have a community full of individuals that use that spare time to give back to our students and our staff. The picture in the middle is an incredible young woman who's talking to us about her artwork. This is at the Grace Gallery. So it's a space in our community that was given up free to actually display our students' artwork. The artwork was incredible. We had so many parents and community members come out to look at the artwork. This is just one example. It was incredible, the turnout. I didn't know what to expect. And incredible that this space was donated for free for our students, and the owners of this space were there, present, and engaging. It was incredible. On the right-hand side of that, again, another example of how many community members have donated time, materials, and their expertise to help our masonry students, our construction science students, to improve their craft. And that's just a student, by the way, that was teaching me how to actually build a wall. So if you need some help at your house, I think I'm your girl.
I heard it was crooked.
Who said that? That is not true. It was measured, it was evaluated, and that young man is so impressive that was teaching me. So it was fun. It's a fun experience, fun things I get to sometimes do, but what was most important is the community that was surrounding these students, giving expertise, supplying materials, and it truly was enhancing that program. And then at the bottom, I was invited to go to Lake Belton High School, and these incredible young women have choreographed a dance. It's going to be unveiled later in the year. It is also a nod to supporting those going through cancer, particularly breast cancer. And I will tell you, I was in tears. The music was appropriate, perfect, incredible. Their dancing skills were amazing. Had the chance to tell them a little bit about my story, and I will tell you, I left so inspired by these incredible young people. Also, again, more fun happening across our campuses. I wish you had the chance next year. Please put on your calendar to get to storybook time at Chisholm Trail Elementary School. Not only was it incredible what the staff did, but it's not just fun. It happened to be around Halloween, but also on display all throughout the building is authentic writing, both in English and in Spanish. You had teachers bringing books to life. It was incredible community turnout. So many parents and students were there, and it was just so fun to be a part of that. And they tried to get me to judge. They got me to judge last year, and I was like, I'm not doing it. I am not telling any group of teachers that theirs was not first place, because I think they all were incredible. And continuing, so yes, as you heard, like many of you did, and some of you were actually dragging props out onto a field. Had the opportunity to really witness the hard work of our bands at Lake Belton High School and Belton High School. I will tell you, I was blown away by both bands. I had no idea there was a wardrobe change in the middle of Belton High Schools. That was a crazy shock to me. It was incredible. I had people standing next to me crying. I mean, they were just brought to tears with how incredible that performance was. Lake Belton High School went on to state, got to watch that performance, and as you heard me tell the students, I'm sorry, I think the judges got it wrong. I think it was incredible. It was powerful. Their music was outstanding. So what an honor to be able to see that. Thank you. I know, Chris, you are a participant in dragging some amazing props out, as well as all the parents. If you have not seen what our parents do, it's not just our students who are working hard, but it takes an army of parents to make those experiences happen, and I'm incredibly proud of them. And then I also got to go to some plays, and on the left-hand side, New Tech had hosted one of our community meetings with our career readiness partners. So partners from all around the community coming in who spend their time, dedicating their time to helping us think through how do we ensure our students leave our system career ready. And so just final remarks, just want to say thank you. Yes, we did have a bond election, and want to thank our community for the vote of confidence for our proposition for technology. We have over 19,000 devices. We are a large school district in the state of Texas. I'm very thankful for that support. While we're incredibly disappointed in the results in some of the other propositions, we know our needs did not end based on that vote. So we are listening. I'm doing a lot of listening to feedback, particularly Proposition A. And I have to thank the Bond Advisory Committee. We had community members from all across our district that came together, studied our facility needs. They studied our long-range plan. They made recommendations for us to move forward. Their hard work, I just have to say thank you, and to all the other community and staff members that supported just getting the word out on what was in these propositions. And so with that, that's the end of my update since the last time we joined together.
Thank you, Dr. Golden. Anyone have any questions for Dr. Golden, comments? Okay, that takes us to item 6D, board highlights. Anyone want to share anything? Chris, I think you're probably busting at the seam to talk about the band, right? You were there.
I mean, I will.
Oh, yeah?
Twist my arm. Yes, the last month for me was brought to you by the Fine Arts Department in every way that it could possibly be brought to you by the Fine Arts Department. Yeah, I'll start with the art show, right? The art show Friday night? No. Man, I don't even know when it was.
Saturday.
Saturday was so awesome. And yes, this guy did back into the light switch while the news was interviewing one of our students and cut the lights out.
I didn't rat you out.
I know. I can't even believe I did that. But, I mean, the picture that Dr. Golden had on there, had the opportunity to talk to several of the artists that were there. And the explanation that we were getting was, I asked the student, talk me through how you made this piece of art, right? It was all digital art, and I couldn't wrap my head around how she possibly put all that together. And I got to hear the story around, the makeup that she was wearing. That was actually a photo of herself, like that sort of the clown-looking photo, right? It's actually a photo of herself that she took. She had never done her makeup before, right? And so she talked about walking around for days in that makeup, trying to kind of get that perfected, and walked us through the whole process. But it was that kind of interaction with the students that whole evening about their works of art, with their parents, with the art teachers. The art teachers were so proud. The one teacher, oh my gosh, his name is escaping me, from New Tech.
Tab.
Yes. One was even a subject of the artwork. I mean, they were just so proud to be there. So it was a great opportunity. And some of the works are even have price tags on them. So if you're interested in purchasing a piece of art, some of our students are willing to separate themselves for a price. So it's great. That was an awesome event. Went to a couple theater productions. I mean, again, if you haven't seen a Belton ISD theater production at any level, you are missing out in a huge way. These kids are so crazy talented at all levels. Just so amazing. Okay, so let's talk about some marching bands, right? 2 full marching bands, right? Marching 100 and the Stampede. Oh my gosh. I know you've seen them, right? If you've gone to a game, you've seen them. But I think the wardrobe change was new. I think that was the first time that you saw the wardrobe change for Marching 100. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, they basically had, their initial uniform that they walked out in, partway through their set, when the sun came out as part of their set, they actually had rip off like a tearaway uniform, right? That they changed from like a cloudy, gloomy purple to a bright yellow. It was amazing. It was a really awesome visual effect. And so hats off to the Marching 100 for what they were able to do. Like, I've not seen that anywhere, right? So that was kind of a new thing. And I think that program's got a lot to look forward to. They've got a really young band, a lot of freshmen and sophomores. I think they're understanding what's going on. They made it all the way to the level right before state, right? So made it all the way to areas, great experiences. So, my prediction is if it's not next year, it'll be the year after that they're going to make it there too. So they're very close and so awesome. Stampede, oh my gosh, right? So 5 years out of 5. There's 5 years in their existence that they could have qualified for state. There's 5 years that they qualified for state. And so we've got a lot of amazing things going on there. And it wouldn't be possible at either school without our middle schools. And so our middle school band and orchestra programs as the feeders into the high schools are what it's all about. Like, that's where they're learning, like really setting the foundation. And you can see that, right? You can absolutely see it. I've spent a lot of time watching video of the other performances from the folks who, the 14 folks that finished ahead of us. I'm now a band analyst. If you want to know my opinion on, what we need to do going forward, let me know. But it was just so awesome to be with those kids. I did get roped into chaperoning. I chaperoned lots of the events all throughout the year, but got roped into chaperoning state, and that was a pretty awesome experience. And then little known fact, if you hear anything about chaperone shenanigans, that would be me. And so I was the sort of behind the scenes reporter for the Stampede all season long, and that culminated in my last report at the state event. So
I think it's your new job.
if you know, you know. It's a membership only group. So yeah. So,
Chris, I remember you telling me at Convocation how good Stampede was when they came and the drummers were there, right? You were telling me about that, yeah.
Yeah, I got to tell you, like top to bottom, like fine arts all the way around.
Yeah.
Whether it's art, whether it's band, whether it's music, whether it's dance, right? The dance teams, we got something going on, right? For sure, right? And the important thing is about the stickiness, right? That this is the stickiness for these kids. This is a lot of ways. These are the things. These are the programs and the opportunities that keep these kids coming to school, right? So from an attendance standpoint, from a grades perspective, right? They've got UIL grade checks. Some of these things are the reasons why these kids are coming to school and continuing to perform in their other classrooms.
Mm-hmm.
So can't say enough about how important that is.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chris. Anyone else?
Got to do a theater production as well, and then Belton High homecoming game, and then on Friday it was Aaron at Belton High and then at Lake both, to see both the teams get sent off before their playoff games, and it's just incredible to see the support that always happens there. They're done differently at Belton and then at Lake, the way the bands come out and parents and everyone supports them, but it's just, again, great support from our community. Let's see, Lake Belton High School girls basketball home opener, big win. Was a really great one, and then faith-based leaders meeting again, which is always one of the highlights this semester, I think, to meet with our pastors and faith-based leaders around Temple, Belton, and Morgan's Point. And then met with a teacher recently at Leon Heights who had amazing things to say about Dr. Golden. So yeah, those are my highlights.
Thank you, Rucker. Anyone else want to share?
I'll go.
Yeah, Aaron?
Yeah, it's fun to kind of reflect over the month of the fun things that we get to do. And so definitely got to attend some various sporting events. You just can't go wrong with Friday Night Lights, with the football team, the band, just all the things about Friday Night Lights. And also attended some different fine arts events. To Chris saying that it starts at the middle school, I got to go to a sit-in concert for beginning band 6th graders, because I have a daughter who's trying the oboe, which I don't know if y'all know, the oboe is like truly one of the hardest, so it's really fun listening to her practice at home. But they create a sit-in concert as a way to just introduce kids into how to perform, and so it's just this super informal way where we're essentially kind of sitting with our kids nearby, and the band directors are just kind of going section by section and helping them play some notes or partial of a song, but it's just super low key. It's informal, but you can just tell the kids are so proud of. Some of these kids, they literally just picked up this instrument 2 months prior. And so what they're able to do, I was just so blown away with these 6th graders over at South. So that was a really cool experience. Also got to see South put on their theater performance. I think that was last week. Mm-hmm. Totally impressed, which I also learned that the theater teacher there is a product of, she learned from Miss Stuff at the high school. And so she's coming back, kind of like what we heard from our nurse today. She's back kind of full circle, and she's also one of my daughter's teachers, and she's just incredible. You can just see the joy that these teachers have. And speaking of teachers, also looking back over the month, there was the conference day, parent conference day. 12, and I didn't even get to do all of my kids' teachers. Having kids in 3 campuses, I got to see 12 out of the 20. And I have to say the common theme is we have incredible teachers. that do incredible work. I was thankful to hear good reports of my kids, but I was also, I went as a parent, but still having kind of the board hat on, and I just walked away from every single conference of, I'm just truly proud of our teachers and the hard work that they do day in and day out. It's not easy, but I could just tell that they're excited to be there. And so they're really thankful for parental support. They were super, just thankful that, that they got to meet with us as parents. And, it's always just great to have that face-to-face interaction. I think that is it's priceless. And so just thankful that we do that we take the day. I know that secondary, that's really hard. You can't meet with 200 parents. But they do what they can. And really, a lot of these teachers at secondary, they encourage you that if they're not meeting with somebody, that you could just pop in. So I was able to kind of squeeze in some more, but just walked away just really proud of our teachers and thankful. And I know that I'm thankful for the teachers that my kids are having. So I know that that's happening all across the district. So I was just really, that was a takeaway from that day. And then got to go to the Hubbard Branches, their Veterans Day event last Friday, which, was that last Friday or the Friday before? 2 Fridays ago. Wow, y'all. That was an incredible experience. And speaking of the partnerships, Temple College was there. They had their mascot. He was there. So that was really cool to see. And now seeing that they're a partnership, they're attending their events and being present, but just really proud of what they put on. It was incredibly patriotic. I don't know how anybody could have attended that and not have felt emotional. The music teacher over there, she selected the best patriotic songs. When she started out, when the kids started singing Grand Old Flag, it's amazing how you don't hear a song for decades, but the moment you hear it, you can just pick right back up. It was just incredibly patriotic, very honoring to our veterans that were there, and really just to look out and see our kids listening to the program, and you could just get a sense of that they were proud to be a part of that, to be able to give back to their veterans, to say thank you, and to just be proud to be an American and who we are, and because of our veterans. And so it's just really, that was a really incredible event that they put on. So it's been a fun month.
Thank you, Erin. Anyone else? Riley?
Yeah, I went to South Belton Middle School Orchestra concert that was held at Belton High School. I was impressed with the parents. I could tell some of them were just dog-tired before it started. Just, they'd been working all day, and it was late. It was at 7 o'clock, and yawning and things until the concert started. And then, brand new, students just starting in the orchestra, and boy, they were cheering them on. You don't expect it in an orchestra concert, but they had like signs like they have in football games, big signs and things like that. So I was proud of the parents that showed up. And then Chris used a word, stickiness, that I thought was pertinent. I've heard some folks say, maybe not agree with all of the extracurriculars, but that's not been my experience, with orchestra, football, sports, band, all of these things. A lot of these things are super important to the students, to the parents, and they show up, and it gets them. One of the elementary schools, they got people in by having kind of a community event, and then they got to share some extras. So I think those things are important, and I was glad to be there.
Thank you, Riley. Anyone else? Okay, well, that takes us to our consent agenda. Does anyone wish to pull anything from the consent agenda? No, okay. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented? Mr. Bozon? Mr. Floor? All right, that takes 2. All right. All those in favor, please raise your hand. That passes 7-0. That takes us to public comments on non-agenda items. I do have one person Mr. Gilbertson? Sir, if you'll come up to the podium there, let me read this into the record real quick before you get started, okay? In order to comply with the Texas Open Meetings Act, the board may not respond to comments or otherwise discuss or act upon any issues that are not posted on the meeting agenda. Participants will be allotted 3 minutes for public comments regarding non-agenda items. We have a timer on the screen, sir, and if you'll identify yourself and where you reside, and then you can begin.
Keith Gilbertson. I live in the district, out off of Arrowhead Point. I want to say that I'm pretty impressed with the things I heard here tonight. Pretty amazing what stuff you guys have to filter through. Very good. I came here primarily to talk about BOND. And I realize I don't want to rain on your party on this thing, but I feel like the community got it right. When I look at the money that was going to be spent and I look at the value of what you're going to get, I believe they got it right. And my people go through Lake Belton system, and the shared facilities, from what I know, seems to be working well. I don't see a problem with shared, from what I hear. And the complaints, I think, just aren't, what I hear, aren't valid. Money is not unlimited, okay? And somebody's paying for it, and it's us. And then I really enjoyed the part about the Southwest School, but I never heard anything about recruiting your very best teachers and giving them pro pay to go take on that Southwest challenge. I feel that, you know, here's the kids that really need some emphasis. Why not recruit the very best teachers, give them extra pay, and put them to work taking on that challenge? Okay. Second to the last thing is I would like to see something published about the categories of employees we have, the numbers, administration, teachers, teachers' helpers, support staff. I'd like to see what goes on there. I think people in the community have a right to see, you know, what we're happening there. And the last thought is probably, I've got a burr in my saddle still from the library or librarian thing that happened here about 2 years ago, maybe 3. What would be wrong with us having one head librarian and a bunch of librarian techs at the various libraries? I feel like this is a group that have kind of felt that they were an entity unto themselves, not responsive as they should be to school board or admin. And that's all I have, and the time has run out. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. That brings us to item 9, closed session. The time is 8:34 p.m. and the board will now go into closed session for A, student disciplinary matter, Texas Government Code Section 551.082, B, personnel, Texas Government Code Section 551.074, consider superintendent recommendation regarding termination of assistant principal term contract employee. C, deliberations about real property, Texas Government Code Section 551.072. And finally, D, consultation with attorney, Texas Government Code Section 551.071. Okay, the time is 9:15 PM, and the board will now reconvene in open session. All action items, reports, and consent items for this meeting have been addressed. There being no further business, this meeting is adjourned at 9:16 PM.
Hey, there's one thing that we